Welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, the only show on Indian television where you, the MSME, get center stage. This is ETNA's special daily initiative to give MSMEs and entrepreneurs the opportunity to be front and center in every industry and area that matters to you. We do a roadshow across 20 cities in India. We're bringing you tonight the highlights of our roadshow from Shillong. Pooja Jain was there speaking about an economy under transformation, and we had some big voices joining us on that panel discussion. Take a look.
For decades and decades, Shillong has largely been described as an agrarian economy, an agriculture-based economy with perhaps tourism coming in as a close second. When you think of Shillong, and when it's often described as an agrarian economy or a tourism-driven economy, is that oversimplifying it? Is that no longer relevant? Is that no longer accurate when it comes to describing Shillong?
See, any economy goes through several stages, and Shillong has always had this a great privilege to be at such a location that it kind of inculcates the idea of what beauty is. I mean, if you think of beauty, Shillong is something that comes to naturally. In fact, that is one of the key aspects. We attract students from all over the country, and one of the key aspects that attracts them, in addition to the education aspect, is the beauty of the place. I have seen of late that institutions like Zizira and Texol, they're starting to, do something that was not really there, Slowly it's coming up, and perhaps it's not yet. I mean, tourism is still our number one thing, but then inevitably they seem to be, slowly, like any other economy, transcending into some other more balanced and other economies as well.
And what have been some of the contributors to that movement? And Rosanna, I pose this question to you. Is it access to skilled manpower? Is it, liberal industrial policy? Perhaps the geographical advantage that Shillong enjoys, given that it neighbors the Southeast Asian market? What are some of the factors?
We have a whole lot of talents here, which, since we have been working with the weavers in Meghalaya as well as northeastern states, and we have seen a lot of talents. Like, working with the weavers, we have seen that this is a dying art. What we are trying to do is trying to revive it back. So, adding with the tourism as well as, with the weavers, so people can, it can also attract, people from outside to come and see what we have here in Shillong and as well as in the Northeast.
At a government policy level, right, is the government doing enough to open up Shillong's economy in your view?
Well, I think when it comes to the kind of industry where we're in, when we talk about the e-commerce business, I think I won't really say that the government has not done anything. Yes, they've tried to open by opening schemes and giving them these opportunities, but not yet enough for an individual or for an organization to move forward to where they really want to see and bring in a transformation. So I think there's a lot more for the government. If we talk especially with the government, there's a lot more that it can offer, especially when it comes to giving the support, the encouragement, like not leaving just, yes, the giving schemes, but not just in a way to just let a person be there, finish the course or finish the training, but even showing and educating them more. And then even if, like, when it talks about example like opening a market. So that is something that the government can still do their part in venturing and collaborating with other big organizations, be it from mainland India or maybe from around the world, around the globe, where they can bring in such expertise into the state and collaborate with the young entrepreneurs or the industry, the booming industries that's coming up here in the state.
Gerald, do you agree that the government is not doing enough to empower Shillong-based MSMEs?
The government is doing many things for giving schemes and all. But the main problem is, I'll just share an example here. Since I'm from the tourism sector myself, I've been trying to avail several schemes. So there's this scheme, it's from the tourism department. It gives for 1 crore. It gives where you can build a resort. You have to have your own plot of land, all the lease and documents and have to be produced. But then it gives subsidy for at the rate of 30%. But what happens is, when you avail this loan, the government, if you talk to the government officials, they will say, you can go to the bank, speak with the bank. After going to the bank, what happens next is they will say, go to the government, tell the government to pay the subsidy first, and then we'll release the loan. That is something that the government is lacking.
So more needs to be done to create a stronger economic environment here, it seems like.
Exactly.
And that leads me to my next question. And Arnab, I'd like to pose this to you. Has Shillong kept pace with the rest of the country when it comes to economic development?
The idea of development has a very positive connotation in our minds. When we think about development, progress, transition into a new economy, that is something, it brings in good memories, amenities, clearer water, more jobs, more money. Not everybody perceives development the way we perceive. You see, I have seen over the last few years that I've been here, that there is 3 groups in Meghalaya. Group 1, those who have already been in the developmental bandwagon. They are primarily composed of people from outside of the state. A lot of people from Rajasthan, Bengal, Assam, they have been in the developmental bandwagon for several years, for several generations now. For them, development means what we also refer to it as. Then there are the neo development, people who are from the indigenous population. Maybe they have been in the business 1 or 2 generations. Then there is a third population, subpopulation, which is people who kind of believe in the idea that development might cost them their identity. See, while we think of development as better amenities, they think of development as having to stay away from their family, not being able to go to services every weekend, having to sacrifice on things that they hold dearer. Now, the problem is, when we have a sector who do not define development the way we define, we cannot have them on board while development.
Now that's a fascinating point then. And, Rosanna, do you agree there that this development is actually causing a divide?
Yeah, I think, it's a question to be debated, actually. Whether it's we are looking towards economic development or not, because a major chunk of population still are looking for government jobs, not for starting up their own job, their own work, or businesses. So this is something which has to be debated. I think there's a lot of
Well, why this aspiration to pursue a government job? Is it the security that it offers? Is it a level of prestige? Is it resistance to entrepreneurship? What is it in your view?
A lot of people are first-time entrepreneurs here. So entrepreneurship is a new thing for a lot of people here. So government job is something which has been there. So, and it's more, they feel it's more secured. So that is the reason that they prefer that. But I feel that the change has to come, and it is coming now.
Well, what can Shillong-based educational institutions do to foster and to fuel entrepreneurship? And, Arnab, naturally, this question goes to you.
Okay, again, see, since you asked this question, I'd just like to take a step back and answer this question. See, for entrepreneurship, if I have to become an entrepreneur, I have to be very clear about 3 things. Number 1, I have to have a positive attitude towards it. What I mean by that is, and no, it's theory. It's a 1991 based theory given by a person called Adzen. He talks about 3 aspects for entrepreneurship. Number 1, attitude towards the behavior. That means I need to have a positive feeling about becoming an entrepreneur to begin with. Number 2, subjective norms. People around me need to have a positive feedback. I'm a social creature. If everyone around me tells me what you're doing is terrible, I'll perhaps end up not doing it even if I have a positive feel about it. Number 3, perceived behavioral control. How good will I be if I undertake a profession or try to do something? All the 3 things are in place. Chances are I will turn into an entrepreneur more often, faster than others. Now, when it comes to subjective norms, a lot of people, even when the idea of becoming an entrepreneur is being harbored by people, there are a lot of people around us who would tell us that it's better to get a job. It has security. It will give you an identity, and because perhaps their perception of an entrepreneur is someone who's sitting, who has got no jobs. Basically, there are, again, there are different types of entrepreneurs. People in Delhi and Mumbai become entrepreneurs because it's their first choice. People in the eastern side become entrepreneurs because they have not gotten selected into a lot of things. So our perception of entrepreneurship is, okay, he's a loser. That's why he's become an entrepreneur. Now, I'm just putting it the way sometimes it is being, put into the societal concept. Where does the educational sector come in? See, it has to start at a very early day. Now, this whole perception about one being not able to get something and hence becoming an entrepreneur needs to be first dealt with. Interestingly, our educational institution, even at the school level, try to teach students how to follow lines. That has been an evil of our education system, not only in the Meghalaya, across the country. We teach them how to follow lines. We don't teach them how to go beyond lines, how to go around lines. And that is one thing that I really need. The educational setup of Meghalaya and Northeast and India needs to take in very seriously.
Time for a break, but don't go anywhere. We'll continue bringing you the highlights of our panel discussion in Shillong on the other side. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, with the only show that travels extensively to all corners of the country so that we can speak with you, the MSME entrepreneur, directly. Tonight, highlights from a panel discussion in Shillong. Do take a look.
I think, that's a fascinating point there. And what I will say is, Iban Sara, you're clearly an entrepreneur. And identity is a word that I've heard in this conversation at multiple times. And in the 24 hours that I've been in this city, you can just feel the intense pride that this city shares about protecting their identity. There's that vibe in the air. And the business that you're in, which is, natural food products, many Shillong-based homegrown products, homegrown recipes, and yet it's a purely online play. Right? You're essentially straddling both worlds. You've infused technology in putting out a product that is very authentic in nature. So how do you strike that balance, and what brought that about?
Working our way there, I'm not saying that we have really come across in a big way. But yes, really finding that is kind of difficult because there are a lot of things, the external factors that we call it, apart from the internal things that we do. The external factors can be, yes, the protocols that we need to follow, which comes in its gestures sometimes from the government, then even the locality. Again, the perception and the mindset of the people here, because the kind of the culture, the kind of the background that we all come from, I think it's still there, it's still yet there, and we're not really willing to think beyond, or we're not really willing to take the risk. So finding a balance is something that is still going to be a struggle to really come in and find the common ground. So I think that is something that I can say from a part. But yes, we, as an organization being part of Zizera, we have been able to do our part, being different and being unique and really taking the risk. We didn't know this kind of a business would really work out, but then we can see the fact that we have a purpose to fulfill, the fact that we can show and showcase the nature, the beauty of this region through the food products to the mainland India. I think that speaks volume because we've been able to connect it through the terms of technology, where we call about e-commerce, and then where we've been able to bring in people and customers from around, not just in mainland India, but even globally, where they've been asking about the natural food products from here. And we've done that using technology as one platform in our own ways, in our own small ways. So this is something that we've been able to do, but there's a lot more that we can do with the support of the government, with the support of the local people, because we do really need the localites to support and encourage, because that is the main thing, because for anybody to really move on forward, they really need to see something that is proven.
And that leads me to my follow-up question. We're constantly reading about the Make in India movement, And what I'd like to understand in the context of your business in particular, does make in Shillong equate to make for Shillong? Or is the majority of your customer base not from this city?
Yeah, I think so, yes. If we really want to perceive it in that way, it should be make for Shillong. But like I said, there's still a struggle here because there's a lot of things that we haven't been able to tap into. There are a lot of things that we still have to really follow and endure each and every day because we still need a lot actually from the government or from the young, from the youths, from the parents, from the family. I think there's more that we can do from here.
So is there, you know, Rosanna, do you sort of think that there's a social consciousness to the Shillong-based buyer, purchaser? And if so, how does that serve all these marginalized communities that you're trying to uplift through your NGO?
We have been working with the weavers for a very long time and realized that, you know, if we can, we have been able to tap the talents and, you know, so if we can really train them or, you know, make them see that these things are viable and can be sold in the local market as well as the international market or the national market, I think it will serve the purpose for them.
Absolutely. And Arnab, what can we do to, you know, organize this economy so that the fresh graduates coming out of institutions like NIFT don't see those shortcomings in opportunities that are availed to them as soon as they graduate? There are very few tech startups, for example, and I don't know if they hire at the university level. So, you know, just trying to get a sense of what options are for fresh graduates.
As I've saw, you know, like many people, many students actually, they go to they complete their academic, you know, classes and other things, and they finish their MCA, BCA, and other things, and then they think like they will get a job, but the thing is like it's not so easy how to get a job. The companies, they want skilled people. At this time, when they pass on like BCA or MCA, they are just passed on in a papers, not on their skills. So this is very important for the like colleges and the universities, those who are there, you know, in Shillong. They should have a little change in their system. When they are going for a project thing, they should also know how to do things.
Look, I think we all agree that education is fundamental to economic transformation. So, you know, Arnab, my next question is to you. What do you have to say about these loopholes in the education-based system, be it in Shillong or otherwise?
Our educational system, once again, is something that has tried to keep people in line for a very long time for obvious reasons, because student-to-teacher ratio is way too low, actually. So one student, whereas if you go to the US or some of the developed countries, Sweden, you'll have a 1 to 8, 1 to 10, 1 to 12, 1 to 14 ratio. Over here in our schools, if you talk even about the higher, better schools, you have a 1 to 30 or 1 to 60 ratio. That does not give the teacher the opportunity to individually handhold each of the students. As a result, the teacher is most concerned. And you know what the teacher's performance review looks like? How many people got first class? How many people got second class? How many people failed? Now, what does that tell the teacher? I am supposed to make sure that more people get the top grades. So he starts working on the grades. And how does she work on the grades? You have a doubt? I am not going to answer it. You learn this, and that's it, period. Now what happens is, the student or the kid stops interest, the curiosity dies. The engagement of in the subject dies. We are born curious, we are born engaged. Our education system is training them out of innovation, of creativity. Where does that leave us? That is the most scary part for me now. 15 years from now, we will be replaced by robots. That means all the repetitive jobs will be replaced by robots. We will not have repetitive jobs. We'll have creative jobs only. When our teachers teach us to stay in line, what we are doing is what everybody else is doing. That's where the herd mentality comes from. That's where the belief of getting the government job comes from. That's where the idea of innovation and entrepreneurship stops.
A lot of great takeaways there in those last few comments. And one I wanted to hone in on particular was about incentives not being aligned in the education system in particular. And when it comes to MSMEs, and we have several in the audience, I want to speak to the entrepreneurs here. What is Shillong doing to incentivize MSMEs and incentivize this sector?
I think with Zira too, because we are here into this business now, it's more than 2.5 years, but we have a parent company that is Chili Breeze, and it started 12 years on its journey. When we started way back in the year 2004, I think our CEO, Mr. Ralph Budelman, did have a lot of struggles. And he saw the first thing that he knew this place was, he could see how hardworking the youths were. Another thing is also, it's the customers driven, because when we talk about Chili Breeze as a company, it's such a small company from how remote we are, but how from this place we've been able to connect with the big giant companies like Microsoft, like, you talk about MasterCard. These are some of the few companies that we're working for. They're globally, but these customers are the ones that have really shaped and nurtured us too, to like really live up to the expectations and the standards. So in this way, how Chili Breeze or how Zira has been able to inculcate that kind of a culture in bringing and uplifting the people from this region, where we can say, you don't have to go and search for a job elsewhere. There's a place for you here, but it's just that you just need to do more and go beyond, apart from just the education system that we have. But what else is required? So you need to be more creative, more innovative, search for ways, create that for yourself. Then there's always a place for you.
That's a great note to end on, which is there's always a place for you here in Shillong. So a huge round of applause for all of our panelists for sharing their individual Shillong success stories.
That's our show tonight. If you have any feedback for us, here's how you can reach us. leadersoftomorrowtimesgroup.com is our email ID. If you have any comments, you can also tweet at us. Sunanda_J is my personal Twitter handle. LOT_ET now is our official Twitter handle. Or leave those comments for us on our Facebook page, Leaders of Tomorrow on ET Now. We love hearing from you, so do keep your feedback coming in. Thanks very much for watching. Have a good night.